Like that. Now we've got to get the width of the head, haven't we? So you go back to your unit of measurement. Go back to the unit of measurement, the head, top of the pencil, top of the head. Okay? Thumb down to the chin, holding that measurement there. Compare it now across the widest part, which is going to be this, where the eyes are under here. How does the width of the head compare to?
I believe that the activity of drawing is at once fundamental, and drawing the figure is the work out every artist and designer needs to continually inform their work, and applies to most of the arts and beyond, to architecture, fashion design, interior design, and many more. When it comes to students who are doing fine art, then drawing is fundamental.
Okay? So now that you just repeat that on here. It's 3/4. Doesn't matter which unit you use now. Right, 3/4, there's his head again. You put your finger, 3/4 is. You want the head to be there, you want the feet to finish there. You divide that.
Up until relatively recently, working directly from the model was regarded as essential. It forces the student to observe, and to observe closely, in order to achieve an accurate drawing or painting. The big advantage of this system and technique is that this skill can be applied to any subject: landscape, seascape, still life, and so on. On fine art degree courses, up until the Second World War, life drawing was obligatory on most courses and seen as the foundation upon which all art rested. And then, of course, if you want to draw well, then you do need some form of training, some measuring system by which you can achieve accuracy, proportions, and indeed confidence. Otherwise, you are really just drawing in blind, as it were. So all the basic skills are still relevant today, though many people may not think so, even within modern art.
Are you not happy with the changes in art education now?
In many respects, I would agree with that. No, I'm not, because as I said a few moments ago, I still think the basics need to be taught. I'm a great believer in the traditional way of doing things. I come across students now, of course, who may be into their final year, have spent many thousands of pounds, got themselves into debt, and yet still cannot draw. So what hope do they have once they leave college of taking up a career in art? They don't, because they can never put a competent piece of work together, because again they lack those fundamental skills.
Put the thumb on the line of the neck, come down in a straight line to that thigh, and then ask what's the distance for that line of the thigh is. Come on, have a go, I'll help you. So take the head.
I'm Dr. Rob MacDonald. I'm an architect, and I'm here because I think life drawing is a really important thing that needs to be reintroduced onto the artistic agenda. I think we're very fortunate to have a number of excellent models and some very good tuition. This idea of drawing by measurement is new to me, but I think it's a skill that we all should learn, and I'm pleased to be learning it.
Oh, so you're teaching architecture, but you haven't been taught these things before?
Well, I was saying to some of my students, when I was in first year at Liverpool University, they took us to life drawing at the Liverpool School of Art, and that was the earliest I can remember doing life drawing. But since then, you know, most of my life I haven't done life drawing, and this is the first time I've been doing it again.
So I'd be happy with that. You come across about 3/4. That's the level. Be interesting to find out the distance. This is your sheet of paper. Say from bottom of.
If one wants to paint and paint well, then drawing is the key, and the key to drawing is understanding proportions. To achieve proportions, the artist needs to learn a measuring technique. In my opinion, the best method is the thumb and pencil method, or the comparative system. Quickly explained, once you decide what your subject is, in the instance of the human figure, then you take a unit of measurement, probably the head, and use the head to measure everything else. This method has been handed down from the Greeks nearly 3,000 years ago, generation to generation, through hundreds of years of art. Without a solid foundation, effective communication through art is impossible. Up until probably around the early 1950s, the fine art student would not progress through a fine art degree course until they could master life drawing, working initially from plaster casts or the human form, usually in their first year, and only after that onto the human figure itself. As I often point out to people, walk into any art gallery that houses paintings through the centuries, and the one thing those artists who painted in a variety of styles had in common was that they knew how to draw well.
I find that working as a life model, I think helps me to be a better life model. The fact I'm a figurative painter myself, and I've done lots of life drawing myself over the years. Hopefully, it helps me to sort of know a bit more what artists require from a life model. So hopefully it makes me a more professional model. And it's also good that it, as well as supporting my own painting, financially, the life modelling is a good way of staying in touch with other creative people, and that's inspiring. It's best not to be isolated as an artist.
With the advent of modern art, especially after the last war, much good practice went out of the window, and many of the basic skills required of the painter were dropped as the ideas of the modern art took their hold, and conceptual art became the rage, and artists such as Tracey Emin and Damien Hirst were taken on by one of the biggest art gurus in Britain, Charles Saatchi, and carefully promoted, packaged, and presented to the world as great artists, comparable to the old masters, the likes of Rembrandt, Goya, through to Monet and Picasso. But I doubt much of this art will stand the test of time, and its prominence in the art press and the public domain is driven mostly by money and greed.
At the moment I'm studying architecture. Most of my drawings are quite technical and in that kind of thing, so I'm trying to change my drawing style into something more expressive, hopefully, and change the kind of line style and the whole kind of drawing technique, really. That's what I'm hoping to do. We're hoping to get from the life drawing thing in general.
Right. Do you think the life drawing is important?
I think it's really important because you're able to see it for yourself rather than in secondary sources. You're able to view all the shadows and view the different lines yourself rather than what other people interpret.
What did you learn from these lessons here?
The measuring style is something I learned from last time I came. Be able to break down the composition into, I think it's 5 different sections or however many, from the different measuring style of the pencil as well. That's what I learned from last time I came. Yeah.
So it's very easy to sit on the first session. Say on the second one. After the third time you'll be able to say, yeah, that makes sense. Then it's
I think that it should be reintroduced because even though I don't do drawings in my art, I think it's useful with like shape and tone, and like it's a useful skill to have that I haven't done before, and so yeah, I've loved it.
From that shoulder to where that arm disappears, and you get that in. Then you could measure down to the maximum width around just below the hips, okay, around that thigh, get that line in, come down to say where the foot needs to go. Once you've got that line in.
Yeah, I'm an artist myself. I graduated with a fine art degree from Hull in Humberside in 1984, and I've been painting since then. I'm a figurative painter. Figurative painting was frowned upon in the 60s and 70s as not being very relevant to modern concerns because it was all conceptual art and abstract art. It's nice that figurative painting has a resurgence, and I think as an artist you've got to be true to yourself. You can't worry whether what you're doing is fashionable and contrive to do what's fashionable with your work. You've got to be true to yourself. So if you're actually a figurative painter and you abandon that to become an abstract painter because that's what's fashionable, it's going to be fake, and you're not going to be a real artist. You've got to be true to yourself to be a real artist.
Albina's making a little video of the session this evening, okay? So she'll be recording some dialogue as well over the video. So you repeat what you just done there, and then put your finger where you think it is. In recent years, the problems have been exacerbated by the rapid progress of technology. While this has some advantages, it also has disadvantages, in that students expect quick and instant results from whatever activity they engage in. Drawing, and to draw and paint well, takes time and much hard work.
Or a bit higher or a bit lower.
No, it's not there yet.
Well, it should be a touch higher, which it will be. You see the pubic area? Try that one next. So your thumb now is on the bottom of the toes again, okay, and get the top of the pencil just above the pubic area. And now transfer up. It's a bit high, isn't it? Yeah, so you're quite right. Just a bit above the penis area, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, now once you know that, then you make a mental note of it.
Yeah.
On your drawing, you then divide that into 2 equal parts. So if the feet wanted to finish there, into 2 equal parts. So you find the halfway line on your drawing. Bit lower. There you see. So that will be the halfway line. Yes, it's hard going. What it's doing all the time, you may not be aware of it, but it's training your eye to make those measurements for you. So you don't go through the rest of your life doing the thumb and pencil method. You do a lot of it for the first 3-4 months. But it's training the eye to do those measurements for you. So when you do sit down with your sketchbook, you will know it's one head down to the nipple area. Okay. Another one down to the midriff. 3.5 down to the groin section. You will know that. Beth, how many times does a head go into the average arm? Yeah, you didn't know that an hour ago, did you? So you see, you do learn.
Increasingly, fine art courses struggle financially, and when it comes to where financial cuts can be made, then life drawing is often the first choice, as many of today's teachers brought up on conceptual art say it has no relevance in today's art, and that the student should be using modern techniques to produce art to make the next big breakthrough, by using film, for example, or to take up performance art, or installation art, where the basic craft skills aren't seen as required, though it can be strongly argued that the work ultimately produced all too often fails to inspire and engage the general public, in the same way as they would a painting, which has within it the craft skills of its creator. Another example of the weaknesses found in many pieces of modern art is the way a catalogue often describes a painting, for example, and it seems that the creator of the piece, aware of the weaknesses within the painting, has searched through numerous dictionaries to find the most obscure words in order to put together clever, often complex sentences in which they hope will be a deep and profound explanation in the absence of a well-crafted painting.
Right, everyone else okay? Okay? There have always been artists, you can single out whose main priority is to express themselves by using paint or indeed drawing, and for whom money is of no importance. Those artists have existed, I suppose, from the cave painting, and they still exist today. Yes, it's the headline makers such as Damien Hirst, Tracy Hemming, and half a dozen others who grab the headlines. Much of their art, I said earlier, is a commodity, so it's in the marketplace. But there are many artists around who wouldn't sacrifice their art and who believe in self-expression and who sort of do exist on the poverty line in order to pursue their art. And there are many thousands of those, there's no doubt about it. But of course they don't get a mention because they're not regarded as exciting artists, because, as I said earlier, it's usually the money that oils the art market, as it were. Because art has been constant through the centuries, I think. A painting is still a painting. Ultimately, you do need those basic skills, someone to teach you those skills, and then it's down to your own efforts and hard work to achieve something wonderful. Did you agree?
Do you know what I mean? Where they had.
Yeah. Well, there's 2 ways to do that. One is, of course, right. That's what you can find out that angle, couldn't you? There's 2 ways. Initially, you can just take your pencil. You may have to bring it close to you unless you've got a long paintbrush, and you take the maximum width of the model. Here, it's from the toe to where his back is touching that chair. So I've got that maximum width. And then holding that measurement and keeping my hand in the same position, comparing it to the maximum height. So, from this location here, that composition is